You want me to go to the Trump protest and live stream from it? Yeah, let's go. I mean, I honestly, I'm very supportive of Trump, and I feel very bad. At the same time, he didn't pardon me, so he wants my support. He's not asking for my support. I needed him to pardon me. And the guy who got accused for memes, for making Hillary Clinton memes, well, I did that too. And I didn't get pardoned. And he's like, oh, I got to pardon the Hillary Clinton meme guy. It's like, dude, what about me? And it's not like we didn't ask. We asked. We got that right on their desk. Kushner said, nah, we ain't doing that. Oh, because it would put a black mark on your presidency? Back to Bernie. Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, and now they're first understanding with this Trump situation, is that the legal system we have in America is a disaster. It's corrupt. Stop banging, you're scaring my kitty. The legal system is ridiculous. It's now a wholly owned subsidiary of politicians and people who have their own interests first. They are not public servants. They don't serve the public in any meaningful capacity. If they happen to occasionally serve the public while they're advancing their own interests, then it's a coincidence more than an intention. And, this was proven to me in my prosecution. We now see it loud and clear in Trump's prosecution. If you're telling me the state of New York has no better crime to prosecute than the president paying $100,000 of hush money, quote unquote, to that woman, then you're crazy. Because if you know New York City, there's a lot of crime here to prosecute. And I think that, it's fairly obvious that in our great country of New York, it's fairly obvious that, this is a political assassination. And I think that, I know who sponsored the legal campaign against me. I'm a tough person. I fear nothing. And, I could stand up against the most vicious of tyrants. When I was a child, learning defiance and learning how to stand up for yourself was very important to me. And, I would never, ever back down. No matter what, even in communist China, if they had me against the wall to recant or they'll shoot me, I'd say shoot me. That's just the kind of person I've become. And there's no changing it. I'm 40 years old. It doesn't mean I can't learn. It doesn't mean that I can't grow. It doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes. But, if I believe in something, I'm going to stand for it. And I think that that's something that's pretty important to me. I think it was Martin Luther King who said something to the effect of, if you won't stand for something, you'll lie down for anything, or something like that. And ultimately, I think that, the corrupt political culture and criminal justice culture is really just something that, I think that judges and prosecutors kind of use as a tool to shape society how they see fit, and especially to advance their own interest. And it's really frustrating.
For the person that ended up becoming a federal criminal over the meme, do you actually find that to be justice served?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. The first is the letter of the law. And by the letter of the law, the guy probably committed a crime. The problem is that's not really what should count. And we see this now with President Trump. By the letter of the law, yes, technically, probably the guy committed a crime. But that's not what the law is for. The law is not for nitpicking. The law is not there to let some nerdy prosecutor sit there, comb through the book and say, aha, on page 873, section 15, technically you committed a Class E felony, I'm going to get you. These are the same people in high school who are hall monitors and things like that. That's not what we created the law for. We created the law for us to benefit and regulate society, to allow people to sort of, live in this great country we have. And prosecutorial discretion are the two words that I want you to think about. Prosecutors have an immense amount of discretion to put whoever they want in jail. Like I said, it's a 97% conviction rate. So if they decide you're the person, they're going to go through that law book with 1,000 pages and say, on page 822, then you're going to jail. And there's nothing you can do about it. And the problem is that law book has as many pages and as much creativity as somebody, a team of prosecutors. They can figure out which page you belong on and which page you messed up on. Every single one of us in this room has committed a federal crime at some point, or a state crime or something, just because, even if you didn't realize it. So prosecutorial discretion is all about the prosecutor has to serve society. And the prosecutor almost always is serving themselves. They're serving their interests. Their interests could be political. You go after Hillary's enemy, maybe Hillary does you a favor. You maybe, go after and show that, this is the kind of crime you want to prosecute. Who knows what kind of job you get or promotion or what have you. And it's ridiculous. The people prosecuting Sam, they're, basically, I don't know how to put this, politically correct, but they're drooling at the opportunity to be the person who stands in court in front of all those cameras and says, I got you, Sam, you're the bad guy, I'm the good guy. And that person can become a politician, they can become a partner at a law firm, whatever the case may be. And I know this from my own case. And so the impetus, the drive, what motivates these people to get up in the morning isn't safeguarding their community. Because there's a lot of financial criminals that you need to safeguard your community from. There's physical criminals that we need to safeguard our communities from. And ironically, the prosecutors of the Brooklyn, courthouse got this guy for making this meme when, Brooklyn is right now overrun with crime. And, it's the same place that I grew up in Brooklyn. There's a huge amount of crime to prosecute. So the discretion for them is, do we prosecute a sex offender? The jail I was in was 30% sex offenders. We have basically an epidemic in our country. And the government has always said, we don't have the time to go after every criminal. We have to use our discretion to go after the worst. So if you're telling me this guy making this meme, technically he probably did break Section 82, Chapter 17, subsection 35, that's been on the law book that nobody's used for 112 years. Yeah, he's probably, technically broke that law. But if you're also telling me that there's a dark web site where there's right now exchanging, terrible photos, and that they're prosecuting this guy instead of putting resources to them, and I feel the same way about my case where I had a financial fraud with no victims. I feel the same way about Trump, where you have a guy that, did some, may have done this crime, maybe not, who knows, but, really not a big deal. And then I met this guy a couple weeks ago, Roger Stone, who I'm not even sure what crime he committed, but he had to be pardoned for it. And so those crimes are not really crimes, at the end of the day. They're just basically prosecutors chasing clout, chasing money, and they're supposed to be the opposite. They're supposed to be impartial agents of the U.S. government that are there to serve and protect our community, and they're really serving and protecting themselves. And I think my friend Vivek Ramaswamy, running for president, wonderful dude, has the great idea of saying that these civil servants, I'm using that term, rolling my eyes, that these civil servants should have term limits, that no civil servant should be able to stay in government for more than 4 years or 8 years or something like that. And quite frankly, that's why I always cheer on a business person who has a lot of money, because if they want to go into government instead of skiing or going on the beach for the rest of their life, man, they really want to be a civil servant. It takes quite a lot to say, all these millions of dollars I have, I'd rather be in DC, making laws with AOC. That is, if that's what you really want to do, then God bless. And again, I don't cry for me. I cry for all the other people that have no resources, that have no ability to defend themselves. And you shouldn't cry for Trump, because Trump is famous and Trump can defend himself. What you should be upset about is the guy that's being trampled, who has no voice, who has no rights, who has no ability to defend himself or herself. That's the issue. Yeah, if you can stay below the radar of these cretins, you're in good shape. But, the problem is our country is going down the drain. And I sound like an old man, but I do think our country's going down the drain at this rate. It's kind of disappearing before our eyes. What country, do we have that we want, where, we're focusing on the shooter instead of, who planned this terrible crime, instead of, that's very scary. And you have this weird left-wing cult of climate change, which, I'm sort of a pseudoscientist or, researcher, call me what you will. I believe very strongly in science, but, this culture of taking some parts of science and expanding them past science's purview is wrong. And remember, I'm pro-vaccine. But again, we can't force people to take a vaccine product. We can't lie about a vaccine product. These are complicated products that, are very nuanced, and most people can't fully understand the nuances of immunology and vaccination, and we shouldn't be lying to anybody to convince them of something that isn't there. Again, I'm a pro-vaccine person, but I also, understand it extremely well. And, I think the way the government handled the rollout of the vaccine was pretty abysmal. So if you guys want to find somebody to, we'll talk about climate change in a second. If you guys want to find somebody to support that has a lot of these similar viewpoints, I would encourage you to look at my friend Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for president. People like Vivek and people like Martin Shkreli and people like Peter Thiel, they're all our country's got, in my opinion. People like Palmer Luckey, I think that they're the last protectors of the America that we knew. And I think that, it's sort of a shame that Vivek is Vivek. You can look for Vivek 2020. Vivek, Vivek Ramaswamy, Vivek 2024. So no, I think everybody should be free to choose if they want to take a medical product or not. It's their choice. Vivek is, the one thing about Vivek is he's honest. He tells it like it is, and it's really, he'll tell you, he makes mistakes. He'll tell you he's not right about everything, and he wants to have the open debate as opposed to just talking points that are poll tested and stuff like that. I think that's something really refreshing. He's a very, very smart guy, right? He's a brilliant young man. I think he's even a couple years younger than me. Yeah, no, he's made mistakes with some of his corporate actions too. 𝗙𝗓𝗏𝗡 wasn't great, but he would make a really great president. And having an Indian American as a president would be a huge milestone. We need people that look like Americans, innovators, people who are programmers, people who are, smart people, not just people who know how to yell and scream and attract attention, like Lauren Boebert or an MTG. And again, I'm friends with some of these people, but they're actors. They're not actual people like you and me that actually have to go to work and do stuff. I'm glad that they're passionate about what they say, but I also think that they, they're not regular people, career politicians. Normal people don't want to be politicians. That's a fantastic point, Ram. And I think that, that's where Vivek is doing a true public service. This is why I like wealthier business people as candidates for the public, because they don't have anything to gain from the experience. You have $1 billion, you don't need to be a politician. Trust me, when I talk to people with $1 billion, the last thing in the world they want to do is run for office. It's a huge inconvenience. You can't go skiing in 𝗙𝗏𝗏. You can't, go on your you've got votes and campaigns and, all that stuff to do. It gets in the way of all your fun. Now, some people are able to do both, but in general, there's no benefit. There's no monetary incentive to being the president. If you're a billionaire, no. If you're worth nothing, sure. You get to write books and stuff like that, but you don't get money. You don't get more money being a billionaire. You have to stop doing all your business work. You have to go divest all your, conflicts of interest. Thank you, Zach, by the way, for supporting the stream. You can get some power, but the power doesn't help you. Look at Trump. How did Trump help himself in any way, or anybody else for that matter? It's very much, a social service. And that's why people like John McCain, he was in the war, right? The guy got shot down. This is not a guy that is trying to grift, right? I think that, Vivek, you could argue that a lot of these political guys, they're self-centered, they're egotistical, they're a little megalomania. Look at Trump. They believe that they should be in charge because they have a huge ego. Okay, that kind of comes with the territory with anyone. But they certainly don't have an incentive to do it. I think that that's, really critical. I hope you guys think about that. I know a lot of people here, I'm preaching to the choir, but I think that we have to save our country. And again, I think when I was a kid, I remember all the old people would say the same thing, right? Our country's going down the tubes. We're in danger of approaching that. And thankfully, I think cooler heads will prevail. But, we have to speak. The amount of people that I've met, from the biggest rock bands and rappers in the world to the biggest business people in the world, who have said, gee, Martin, it's so nice to meet you. I always really wanted to say that I support you, but I was afraid. I was a big fan. I even have a poster of Trashy on my wall. And I'd shake their hands and say, thanks a lot. Your support means a lot to me. But the culture of fear that permeates America, that Vivek has talked about, that, shut up, kitty. That culture of fear where people are afraid to say they support capitalism, to say that they support, innovation, to say that they support business. When I was in jail, I'll never forget this until the day I die. When I was in jail, there was this. I was going to a visit. I just got there. It was a couple weeks in, and there's this black woman who's the guard who guards like the visit center. She's like administrating it, and she was like, as I go to my visit, she goes, "Shkreli, come here." I walk over. So I was like, "Yes." She's like, "Listen, I heard about what you did," and I was like, "Yeah." She sort of had like a Megan Thee Stallion type of look and voice. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, get your money. This ain't no communist country. I support you. Now have a good visit. And I was like, yes, queen. And it was really funny because, again, there's a lot of people out there. This is New York, the city of dreams, the city where an immigrant's son or daughter can become a billionaire or anything like that. Whatever their dreams are, it doesn't have to be about money. You could become the best chef in the world. You can become the best violinist at Carnegie Hall, right? This is New York, where anything can happen. Even somebody from the Marcy Projects can become a billionaire rapper entrepreneur. And so anyway, or a Long Island, kid can end up owning the Mets. There's that we want to preserve. Then we have to sort of kick out people like AOC. We have to kick out people like Elizabeth Warren. And I hate to put it in that kind of light, but these people would gladly, if they could, arrest every billionaire, arrest every prominent person, put them in prison, unless they conform to the ideals and the interests that others, that they believe that we should have. For example, they want to regulate everything. There's nothing that shouldn't be under government purview, including AI, which is a brand new technology that people are already talking about. AI should be done. Yeah, New Homestead would be cool. The folks at Praxis are trying to set up a new utopian city.